All right, so some of you probably, I guess most of you know me already. I do the fish passage work with DNR, and that's me at Whitehall Dam, which is now taken out. But I'm going to go through a little bit of background information, kind of set up today's talks. And will this work, Brian? Sweet. So the fish that basically got this whole ball rolling, at least in Maryland, are shad and herring, and they're anadromous fish. And a lot of you know what that means, but it comes from a Greek word meaning anadromous, or anadromos, means running or running up. And they're migratory fish. They're trying to reach upstream areas to spawn, and of course, dams get in their way. It was perhaps the biggest fishery in the Chesapeake Bay, the American shad, and it has declined a lot. And you can see that's the commercial landings in the Chesapeake Bay. It's going way down, primarily because of pollution, sedimentation, overfishing, but also because of the construction of dams and other blockages. And it's that decline of these American shad that basically started the fish passage program where I work in, and also Drew Cosley used to work in as well. And our goal was to provide passage at dams and remove stream blockages wherever necessary to restore passage for migratory fish. That was our founding goal in the Chesapeake Bay Agreement. So fish blockages in Maryland. All the blue lines, of course, are streams in Maryland. The red dots are blockages, or they're showing up as arrows or something, but they were identified by a group of DNR biologists in the 60s and 70s who basically just walked streams and looked for every blockage they could that might affect shad and herring, which is why you don't see anything out in the western portion of the state. They were only looking in tributaries where shad and herring were spawning. And that's what they found, quite a few blockages. These green ones, if you can see them, are MDE blockages, so dams like generally 6 feet or higher. So that adds another couple hundred blockages. And then the yellow is major interstates in Maryland. Not always a blockage, but some of those do provide blockages in the state. And then the purple is secondary streams or secondary roads in Maryland. So not all these are blockages, but there is a potential for quite a few blockages in Maryland. And it can be anything from really big dams like Conowingo to this small dam here on Route 50 on the way to Ocean City. Anything like that can block a fish. Anything really 12 inches or higher is a fish blockage. So when the program got started back in '87, we basically targeted all these really big major dams, and we started doing fish ladders. Now a dam like Conowingo is really big. It's probably it is the biggest fish ladder or fish lift in Maryland. But this is how the ladder works. This is the ladder here, or the raceway, and here's the lift. It's almost like an elevator for fish. They can enter the gate here, here, or here, based on which kind of current they're running at the dam. And essentially they get corralled into this funnel. And eventually they get lifted up. There's a guy in this little tower here that operates this elevator, essentially. Goes all the way to the top, dumps them into here. They swim this way, past this little viewing window. That's them getting dumped in. Swim past the viewing window and get counted, and they go above the dam. And that's how a lot of the dams on the Susquehanna River work. Most of the dams in Maryland are a lot smaller. Oh, yeah, we got a question?
How much fish move that way?
They pass millions of fish a year. Unfortunately, a lot of them are gizzard shad. They're not target fish. They do pass several 100,000 American shad in a good year, but it's been going down. I think last year was only like 20,000. But it can be very effective. It just depends on the year. So this is a smaller dam. This is on the Bush River, and this is a Daniil fish ladder, originally designed for salmon, I believe. But basically it targets fish with this attraction flow, and they simply swim up on their own and go above the dam. And then this is for smaller dams. It's an Alaskan steep pass, and can be pretty effective when the fish are there. But again, if you look at a dam, it could be 100 feet, 200 feet wide, but the entrance to these ladders are generally only 2 or 3 feet, so they're only so effective. And I'll get into that later on. So our first goal was to open up, I think, 1,300 miles of stream. We surpassed that goal, and we figure historically 90% of the habitat is now open for American shad. And in Maryland, at least, historically, a lot of the projects were ladders. And so we're kind of shifting now to another goal, which is to do another 1,000 miles by 2014, and we are well on our way of achieving that goal. I think, 86% we've accomplished so far, and we only got 1 or 2 more years to go. opened over 2,510 miles, not in Maryland, but in terms of the whole Bay watershed, Virginia and Pennsylvania as well. But one of the key important things we're focusing on now is dam removals. We're trying to get away from fish ladders whenever we can for several reasons. I mean, we're working on a ladder now on the Patapsco, Bloaty, and that ladder is so filled with junk, we're having to get a contractor out to remove these big rocks. And keeping these ladders open is a nightmare, but also for safety reasons. I'll get into that. This is Octorara. This is the one we worked on with Sandy. I think Sandy's actually sitting here someplace. No, I don't.
I'm in the yellow thing.
Oh, you're in the yellow thing. Yeah. So, but yeah, this is like one of the first ones we did in Maryland in 2005. It was a very small dam, but it was important because it was kind of got the ball rolling in terms of removal. So there's several reasons we're going towards removals over fish ladders. One is the ecological benefits. Like I showed you before, those ladders, the entrance is so narrow, it's really hard for a fish to find that, and that's the only best case scenario. If it gets clogged with debris, it's not working right. Generally, those flows going through the ladder are for stronger fish. Not all the fish can use it. Things like crayfish can't use a fish ladder, so they get blocked. But also because the dam impounds water, it reduces the dissolved oxygen, it impounds sediment, it alters the natural flow of the river. A lot of these things you guys probably already know. This is a study that they did, Penn State did, in a dam removal in Pennsylvania, looking at the pre and post insect assemblages behind the dam. And they found afterwards, just 2 years afterwards, they're already seeing a lot more beneficial bugs recolonizing the area. We're doing a similar study on the Patapsco now with the Simpkins removal in Union, and hopefully soon Bloaty removal. Public safety is another big one. This is a dam that's signed there. No, the same. Well, you see the little newspaper clipping. Woman in Hagerstown almost got killed by the hydraulics of the dam. We've had deaths at Bloaty Dam, which is kind of what got that project starting again. And also economics. That's the dam I just showed you the newspaper clipping for, where this woman got caught in the hydraulics and the firemen went out there and saved her, and that kind of sparked some talks there. But repairing the dam can cost a lot of money. We've got a dam on the Patapsco, Daniels Dam. It's estimated to cost over $1 million to get fixed back up to code, whereas removal might cost $1 million or $2 million. So removal is generally almost a little bit more or cheaper than actually fixing it up. So this is the Octorara removal, kind of one of the first ones we did in the state. A very small one, but it was very successful. Before and after pictures. This is Raven Rock. This is another one that Fish and Wildlife worked on up in Hagerstown area. This is for brook trout. And this is our most recent one, Simpkins Dam Removal. And as you can see afterwards, it looks pretty darn nice, and we're doing a lot of biological and physical monitoring to assess the impacts that has had, because it was done under an experimental tag. We basically did a passive sediment management approach, and the sediment behind the dam we released downstream into the area. So this is my last slide. I went through pretty quick, actually. I hope Mary doesn't mind. But so our next step is now we've moved away from fish ladders and more towards removal. And now our next goal is, with limited funding, we're trying to find a way to target removal projects rather than just kind of do it willy-nilly, and where we have willing landowners. We're trying to prioritize our efforts. And we did this really cool project with American Rivers and Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA and TNC, and Mary will talk about that now.